Power Steam Museum, wonderful museum. We're a 5-point museum on the TripAdvisor. They think we're a pretty good museum, and I can't argue with them about that. We've got a wonderful program for you tonight. We're going to tell you all about the famous vessel, the Louis R. French. Louis R. French, 1871, the French was built. And we got to putting this together, and well, one of our staff made a mistake when somebody said, well, what's the oldest schooner? Well, they said that Stephen Tabor. Oh my God, Stephen Tabor. No, of course that isn't right. And I got a hand to Garth. He didn't hesitate at all, spoke right up and said, you know, the Louis R. French is the oldest vessel, and there's no doubt about it. Well, I apologize for that, and I must admit that the Louis R. French was the Stephen Tabor was still in diapers when the Stephen Tabor was just a few frames put up somewhere. Why, the Louis R. French was already out hauling freight. So it's pretty exciting to think that in 1871, this vessel was launched. Just to get an idea, get a handle on when that was only 6 short years after Lincoln was shot in the Ford Theater. 1871, this vessel went down the ways and went to work. And she's been sailing ever since, except for the times that she was put up for rebuilding. She's been sailing ever since, earning her keep. She went with the changing of times in the early 20s and had an engine put in her, had her masts cut down, but she had to do it because that was the only way of making these vessels pay. And they have to pay or they won't survive. So the Louis R. French, of course, carried passengers all that time, and now she's approaching 150 years. Unbelievable that these vessels have lasted that long. Both the Stephen Tabor and the Louis R. French certainly deserve hats off to these two vessels. Incredible vessels. But now we've got to get going on the commercial here before we get going on the substance. I got to tell you a little bit about our development here. Some of you have seen this probably. There's our foundation for our new building. We're so full of paraphernalia, wonderful, wonderful memorabilia in the Sail, Power, and Steam Museum that we need more space. So we're building a 4,000 square foot building to put antique boats in. And that's the idea of it. Here's a rendering of it down on the bottom. You can see the big door there. That's where our steamboat's going to go. You know, we have this wonderful steamboat, 40-foot stern paddle steamboat, wood-burning boiler in her, and we're going to be running it on compressed air in that space. It's a wonderful thing with a lot of incredible woodworking paraphernalia all over. And we have Friendship sloops, Muskanga sloops. We've got Herreshoff 12.5s, a couple of them, a couple of antique beetle cats in there. And we're going to have, well, we've got 22 Optimus prams. What are Optimus prams? Who uses Optimus prams? Well, I want to tell you a little bit about one thing that has really tickled me all to pieces, and that's the SKIF program, SKFF, Sail Kids for Free. We developed this program, the Sail, Power, and Steam Museum, taking kids that, whether they can afford to come or not, they're welcome to come for free and have a sail training course, a whole week of sail training for free. We take kids from 6 to 14 years old. Look at them down here on the float over on the left there. These are little tiny kids, and they don't know anything about a sailing boat. And they get down there and they're putting the sails up and they're learning all the rigging and what a rudder does and all the rest. We put them out there and they start to sail around. And of course, their buddies in the boat next to them, like in the cat fight here, his buddy's right next to it. The idea is to go faster than your buddy. It's really an amazing thing. We get these kids out there. We have 22 Optimus prams, and we put them out there and give them a whole week sailing training, and they learn how to do it. And by Friday, you can see down at the bottom there, Friday is race day. They go out in the harbor and they race around the buoys and they race each other, and they are their own captains, and they really learn how to sail in 1 week's time. It is really fantastic. This is all sponsored by who? By you, by people that contribute to the SKIF program, contribute to our SKIF program. And here's the way we work it. We make a promise to you that if you give us, say, $100 to put one kid through the sailing school for a whole week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, every morning for 3 hours, and they learn how to sail and they become enamored by the whole thing. We will match that kid with another kid. So you get 2 for your money. We take 2 kids for $100 and teach them. If you give us $200, we'll take 4 kids out, 300, but 6 kids, and so on up. $500 will buy 10 kids a week sailing. And well, why not be the admiral? We just received $1,000 from a wonderful donor south of here, and that will put 20 kids, 20 young kids through the sailing school for a whole week of sail training. How can you beat it? It's certainly the least expensive way to get a kid on the water. And if you support this, we will support the kids. We promise you this year, we did 68 kids last year. We promised you this year, we're going to do at least 3 times, maybe 4 times that many, because we've doubled the size of our fleet. We have 2 chase boats. We have the kids all in masks. We have them all in life jackets. We have teach them all the safety features. We teach them how to right the boats if they turn them over, and they just absolutely love it. These are just 6-foot long Optimus prams, and the kids come out pretty optimistic. Well, that's my spiel. Let's go on now. We've got a wonderful program to you on the old Lewis R. French. Here's a picture of a yawl-boat, classic looking yawl-boat. And I'm not sure, but I think this is the yawl-boat that John Foss built. Is that right, John Foss? Did you build this originally?
Yes, and it's been repaired and improved since.
Has Garth done that?
Yeah.
It certainly looks like a little jewel. What I understand that's 83 horsepower. Is that right? 83 horsepower.
Yes.
John,
Dan put a Yanmar diesel in there. Dan Pease, who was the captain from 86 to 2003, he put a Yanmar diesel in there in the late 90s, which is still tootling along. It feels like it's still brand new.
Yeah, it's a lot of horsepower. That's great. Must do a good job for you. Well, you certainly keep it up beautifully. It looks like a showpiece.
It's a rugged boat. John did a good job building that one. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, pretty good. Well, who is this Lewis R. French? What's the R stand for? Did anybody know? Nobody knows what that is. Lewis R. French.
Robbins.
Robbins.
Robbins, really? Lewis Robbins French. He was a merchant, a businessman, and I understand his sons wanted him to finance the building of this vessel, and he was too smart for him. He never did finance the building, but he bought a set of flags for her in the end. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the family story, is that if you name a vessel after a living person, then they are obligated to supply the signal flags, which may not sound like a lot in nowadays time, maybe when we order from Amazon, but in the old days in 1871, that was a necessary piece of equipment, and the sons who built the boat stuck it to their dad by naming the boat after him, so he would have to supply the signal flags.
And the one of the sons.
But he was a quarter owner. He must have done something, right?
He was a quarter owner. Well,
wasn't he a document?
Yeah, he shows up as a quarter owner also. He's a quarter owner. 2 of the brothers are quarter owners, and then one brother's an 8th owner, and I believe a brother-in-law is the other 8th owner. So yeah, Lewis R. did invest in the vessel beyond just the signal flags.
The eighth owner must have been the middle brother.
Well, they spread it around the family anyway. Well, that's good. And here's John Foss. Where did this photograph? How did this photograph come up anyway?
It came from the French family. They still own the property in Christmas Cove down in South Bristol on Rutherford Island, where they built the vessel.
Yeah, I see. Okay.
So for those,
And these
those
pictures of,
who don't know, John Foss there is the one who rebuilt the boat back into a schooner in the 1970s. John, did the French family approach you when they found out you were rebuilding the boat, or did you contact them?
That's a good question. I think a lot of it went back to a Down East Magazine article in 1971. And I think that mentioned Ruby French, who was the postmaster in Damascata, and I got in touch with her. I think she just retired from the post office.
Mm-hmm.
And her father was still around. He was in his 90s, and he was the grandson of Louis R. French, and he was the son of one of those brothers, but I don't know which one.
Which was Ruby Louis, Louis husband?
Sister.
Okay, because we did a day sale, I don't know, sometime around 2000 with all descendants of Louis R. French. And we should have kept it. We had a check from Louis R. French to Louis R. French to pay. I didn't give it away. They had to pay for the sale.
she was a pretty vessel back in those days. She had a beautiful shear on her. I guess these pictures about 1900.
Yeah, let's see. We got two sets of pictures there. I think the earliest pictures are the one on the left and the right, and those are taken in Northeast Harbor. I don't know, somewhere between 1905 and 1915 probably. And the middle one we think is a little bit later than that. She's lost a little bit of her shear there, and that's probably after she had some sort of engine installed into her.
She's making a little bell wave there.
Yeah, she's making good way, and her jib isn't set, as you can see, and there's no wind at all in the water. So something is propelling her along in that picture. So that's possibly about 1920s maybe, where an engine might have been installed in her while she still kept her masts in.
Yeah. And of course, when she was converted, and obviously a freighter at this point, the mainmast is gone, and just the foremast they used probably for a derrick.
Yeah, that's two different time periods as well, right, Guy?
I think so. Yeah, that one on the picture on the right, the Louis R. French is the smaller vessel. That's more, I'd say, 1950s. The one on the left, she's iced in, I believe, in Vinyl Haven, and I think that's a hard one. We think that's maybe 1930s. But John and Doug, you guys should absolutely chime in here, or John and Dan. Is that your name, Dan?
Yeah, my name's Dan. Isn't that kid standing beside the boat on the left? Isn't that John?
Is that John Foss in that picture?
John. There.
I think she belonged to some people named Shepherd, who I think had a coal and lumber business in Carver's Harbor. And I think that's 1928, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
John, I didn't know you were that old.
I surprised you. Never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Well, I thought
Right.
I thought she burned and sank in 1929, and then had a pilot house put on. No?
No, you're probably right. So it'd be 1930 then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Those dates, Dan, are really unknown because there's there's a newspaper article I think that you always had on board that was laminated that we used to read to people, and on some of those photocopies it says 1927 just with someone's handwriting, and some say 1929. So I've never known exactly when that accident happened in Belfast. What Dan's talking about is a newspaper article where the vessel was fueling up taking on gasoline, and the fumes caught on fire, caused a large explosion, and she sank right at the dock there in Belfast. And that is when the Gray family owned her, and the Orchid family also were part owners then too. Nobody was injured. One guy did burn his hair. That's what it said in the newspaper article. He burned a thick shock of his white beard, but that's the only injury.
Yeah, but at least it was the guy who lit the match. So
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
smoking. They were smoking while they were fueling up. So hadn't quite understood that vapor part of it.
Garth, I was quoting a different article than that.
Oh,
When I told you about that article, I was quoting a 1974 article that said she was converted to power sometime between 1924 and 1928. And then she was wrecked by an explosion. And actually, it doesn't say a date. I was quoting out of this book here. See this book?
Oh,
Yeah.
oh my God.
This is a book that got Captain Jenny and Captain Garth just put out. Can you see it?
we can see it. We can see it.
That's a plug.
We'll have another picture of it down the way here.
I learned that from Johnny Carson.
Anybody know anything about this?
Yeah, I know something about that. I've never seen it before. How come I've never seen that before?
we just found it, Danny.
Wow, that's awesome. She looks great.
All right, well, we'll move on.
Yeah, good idea.
She's on the beach there, getting ready for inspection.
Yeah.
A lot cheaper than hauling it out on the railway.
Yeah.
So
if you're
for-
gonna- if-
For
if-
people that don't know, she was converted, obviously, completely to a powered carrier, and spent many years all the way down east, moving sardine cans, tin around between the Maine coast, even over to Canada, New Brunswick. And these pictures, I'll let John take over here, but this is pictures that John Foss took when he was determining if the French should be purchased and turned back into a schooner. So John, how'd you hear about the Louis R. French and even get an interest in it?
There's that Down East article in 1971 about her when she was 100. And I got in touch with the owners, and they were still using her. This is June 1973. And Alan Talbot and Doug Lee's father, Bud, and I drove up to Eastport in my Volkswagen. And there she was. And it was good to see her out of the water, because in the water, you have a hard time figuring out what her history was. But when you looked at her out of the water, you realized that this was a coasting schooner underneath all that gray paint and the guards and the pilot house. And Garth, you still got to accept that that steel knee at the bottom of the stern post. I've been trying to give it to you 2 or 3 times. You still won't take it. I'll give it to Jim.
I'll accept it this year, John, as a birthday present, 150th birthday present.
There you go. Yeah.
John, I have a question in that. Yeah. Now, does she have a quarterdeck in that configuration?
No.
It's been cut off.
No quarterdeck.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's the first time I've been able to get you to answer that question for me.
Well, it's the first time you've asked it also. I
That's true. That's very true. Yeah. That's why our transom is so low, right?
Didn't ask a question yet.
Well, there you go, getting her out of the water and
Oh, no,
shipyard.
it's not the TV. I was on it's a video chat with some of the captains of the schooners up in Maine. So I don't know if that's
Hi, Janice.
interfering with our phone call or not. What do you think?
Well, let's go on here. We got the bulldozers getting her out of the water here.
Yeah,
And for the very first inspection, the pilot house is off sitting there alongside. And John Foss is picking plank off of her by hand, I guess. Is that right, John?
not quite, but when we reefed out the garboard fell off.
Yeah. Oh,
Hey,
that's
poking out right there. Can you see it falling off already?
No,
No, right there?
we hadn't gotten to that yet, Danny.
well,
I'm rushing.
you can see why it might be falling off. You look at her on the inside. Boy, takes a lot of courage, John.
Yeah, well, you say people say you have a lot of courage. It means you're stupid or crazy or both.
Whatever
Crazy
it
like
takes.
talk.
Whatever it takes.
Yep.
Yeah, that would turn off an awful lot of people. It's beautiful. Yeah, I guess like an architectural.
So you can
like an
see
architectural dig.
these were all pictures taken during while John was rebuilding the boat, and she had incredibly thick inner hull planking for the there's John with the chainsaw cutting that out. That was so she could carry cargo. So that was a huge part of it, and you can see how heavily she's framed. In fact, there's really no room for anything but frames in there. But John, did you actually go up to Eastport when you bought the boat and bring it down yourself?
Yeah, I think there were 5 of us.
Mm-hmm.
Going around Petit Manan. She hadn't been out of the bay up there for probably 20 years. All the dirt in the fuel tanks got rolled around a bit. Doug was out on the after deck rinsing out fuel filters with gasoline so we could keep her running. Yeah, I had a friend in the Coast Guard at the time, and I said, well, we're going to be, it was November, we're going down the coast with this vessel. She's got no radio or any of that stuff, no electronics. And she's 103 years old. And he said, oh, God, don't call me. He was in the rescue center in Boston. So we didn't have to call him anyway. Meanwhile, while we're working out there in the shop, there's this heavyset fellow showed up to tell stories in the office.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So going left to right, there's Abby Alden, who married Gary Talbot.
That is Albie. Uh-huh.
Yep. And there's Pegine, who cooked for
Pegine.
Orville.
Yeah.
And there's Doug, and there's Linda, and there's some other guy. I don't remember his name.
Yeah. That's a classic picture. And with a chainsaw, how many chains did you buy for that chainsaw, John?
Oh no, we went through chainsaws. Those are electric chainsaws, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's more recently that they've actually put a warranty on them, so they'll replace them. But yeah, we went through a lot of those. They really didn't have much power, but at least they didn't smoke.
One every day. God.
Pretty much like it.
Yeah, the thing full iron. Well, then you started to put the pieces together. And,
Don, when you started to cut into her and remove pieces, what was the most surprising thing that you found in terms of just the condition of the boat? Were you surprised?
The Kelson looked pretty rough. It, after all, had cargo dropped on it for 100 years, but we bored into it and it was yellow pine and all the shavings were nice and bright, pitchy, so we left it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
That and the fact that she'd originally had a centerboard trunk, which John Levitt said she was a fisherman model. She was one of those little fishing smacks that Gamages built. And then, so we designed everything around having a ballast keel and no centerboard trunk. And then we got the ceiling out, and there the frames on the starboard side, a lot of them were dovetailed to go into the centerboard log, the offside log. So if we only knew what we were going to do, we wouldn't have done it.
Probably Garth and I would both thank you for not doing that. All the trouble that a centerboard is. Think of all the things we could have hit.
You did anyway.
Yeah, we didn't need any help. We didn't need any extra help.
I love the two bowsprits sticking out of the building there.
Now that's the rigging. She launched this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the French and the pilot house in between. And those are two masts that came from Ashland, Maine, two big spruce logs that within about a week, they were two masts for the French.
Mhm.
Oh, now's the time.
Hey Garth, this is Bev and Paul. How are you?
I'm great. Hi, Bev. Hi, Paul.
Hey, so so maybe the question is for John. Was the deck raised to accommodate the bunks, the deck below, or is it still the same layout that it was originally and they just took a lot of downstairs out because it was no longer doing freight?
I haven't any idea. Yeah, at some point they redecked her several times, but the first big rebuild was up in Soamesville around 1910, and they did a pretty rough job. And then there was a rougher job done after the explosion, and then there was a somewhat different job done probably after the war, at which point a great deal of her material was softwood. But Harvey Gamage said that vessels like this were generally planked with hardwood below the waterline and softwood above, which was evident even when we started rebuilding her in the early 70s.
Yeah, they're moving her over and getting her ready to go overboard.
But her main deck forward must be the same as when you took her apart. No?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
And then the quarter deck that's on her now is quite a bit taller than her original.
Yeah, it's a full height quarter deck, and evidently she had what we'd consider more like a half height or a fisherman's quarter deck, where the break is well ahead of the mainmast.
Right. Okay.
We went back to an earlier style where it's a full break and it's after the mainmast.
Now, John, when you kept the main deck shelf running the full length of her, was that typical, or was that something you guys came up with?
I think that was part of Doug's engineering background. What we took apart, she was continuous lodging knees from one end to the other, much the way the Grace Bailey was her deck framing was done. But we looked at the idea of finding, 75 lodging knees, hackmatack knees, and we just said, well, we think there's a better way to do this.
Yep.
So,
That's worked out. It's held.
well, yeah, it's pretty hard hanging a yawl boat on a stern like that.
Yep.
It tends to slow after a while.
Well,
That 1976?
Yeah, that picture, that's the industrial wasteland where the yard was set up. And the fish rendering plant is gone. The gas-fired lime kilns are gone. And now the fish plant is now a vacant lot, which is for sale for a tremendous amount of money.
Well, this was all, for people who don't know, this rebuild that John did started in 73, and she was operating in the season 1976, 3 years, was all done in Rockland at North End Shipyard, which, like John said, was right in the middle of an industrial wasteland, and it sort of still is, but a different type of industrial wasteland, I guess. And John, do you think, I think I read somewhere, John actually gave me all of his logs and journals from the rebuild, and he journaled every day what everyone on the boat did and the progress that they made, including Christmas. I noticed, John, you swept up on Christmas both years. But
what I heard mostly was we had a lumber delivery we had all the oak for the ceiling delivered on New Year's Day morning at about 6 o'clock in the morning. It was about 10 degrees out. And the fellow brought it up from around Brunswick, and he had no heater in his truck. And I've never seen anybody so cold get out of a truck. And it was real early on New Year's Day morning. And, you know, some of us had stayed up to observe the ball dropping in Times Square or whatever. And it was a hard morning to get up and unload a whole truckload of oak plank, but it's part of the job.
I noticed in the journal you were a little late that day for work.
Well, the truck wasn't late.
I think I read that you thought that you estimated 20,000 man hours to rebuild the French, which is
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
Oh, hard work, hard work. And this is one of Hawkins' old mainsails, and look at the reef points on that. That's a deep reef, isn't it? God.
Yeah, that was, Budsy Hawkins made that for the Tabor. And
Yeah.
it was a little too big, but you swapped it to me, so that was a good deal. And I think the jib came off the Bowden, and the staysail and the fore. Notice the fore's got 3 sets of reef points. That was
3 sets of reef points. Yeah.
that was from a sail loft in southern New Jersey, and Doug Lee's dad went to buy some sails from that guy, and the fellow understood what he wanted to do with them. He wasn't using them for truck tarps, and Bud offered him, I think, $100 for a couple of the sails. The guy said, "No, for $100, you're taking all of them." There was a lot of patching done on those New Jersey sails.
John, you think this is 1976? Is this year one?
Oh yeah, it sure is.
You can tell by the yawl, right?
No, I can tell by the smudge of the bottom paint on the port side midships. That had something to do with launching.
Oops.
Well, here's another one. I found that. I don't know when that picture was. A nice new set of sails, John.
It's about time, but yeah.
But there's
This is
no fore topmast.
Yeah, this is before we put up the fore topmast and the fore topmast staysail, which is the rig that Danny perfected to make the boat actually faster, and Garth's been working on it ever since.
Well,
Slowed it down.
Yeah.
so what year would that have been, John?
Oh, 79 maybe.
79.
Maybe.
Uh-huh.
Well, John,
He's going right along there.
And what
I don't
year
think you had a,
did
you didn't have a main topsail till 80, did you?
That's why this is 79. Yeah, and there's the rig in the background, and she wasn't
Main
sailing.
top-
7.
Okay.
and what about John? I don't see any small boats, like any davits and small boats. Did you go with no small boats for a little bit?
No, now I got to put my glasses on. Well, maybe we're having a race and we put them on deck or something. I don't know. That's the new yawl boat, so it's at least 78.
Mm-hmm.
And the fore topmast isn't up, so it's before 80.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't get it much closer than that, but
Hey, John, that looks like you might get a bit of weather helm with a main topsail and without the jib topsail there. Did she have a little weather helm on you?
yeah, particularly when we finished beating through the Fox Sound Thoroughfare and the steering gear, the Babbitt bearing stripped out of it, and luckily we're pointing towards Rockland, so we kept right on going. But we put on the emergency tiller, and boy, it may have been 5 feet long, but it didn't do much.
Well, now 1986.
Look at that.
The happiest time of a man's life when he buys a schooner or when he sells it. So here you go, celebrating 1986, Danny, huh?
Yeah. No, well, I don't know if that was 1986. That was after a race win.
Oh, was it?
That's the only time we weren't dry.
Well, it was a good story anyway.
And that's my wife Kathy and partner up in the corner of the postcard there with me.
Dan,
Yo.
why did you buy the Louis R. French?
Because nobody would hire me. What kind of is that?
I'm just wondering. I was just wondering. I don't know. You always wanted to own like you worked as crew, right?
Yeah, but I didn't think there was any future in it. Well, I'd kind of gotten to know John, and we knew he wanted a bigger vessel, so we went looking for a bigger vessel, and then he and I bought that bigger vessel, which needed a lot of work. And when we finished that, we traded shares and ended up with our own boats. In a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's an unacceptable paint job there. You got to do something about that.
Good enough. That's good enough.
Question.
Question, Peanut Gallery.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Jim and Janet in Georgia. Good afternoon, Garth, and good afternoon, Jenny. Tell us what you're doing these days to stay busy with the French, please.
Yeah, we're getting it ready for the season. So we're doing the thing in that picture right there. We're going to be headed to the yard in 2 weeks, and we're just starting to paint and rig and put all the systems back together. So that's our pretty standard spring activities, is just painting and sanding and rigging and getting ready to go. It always entails going down to the shipyard, like in this photo, and getting Coast Guard inspected. They like to see the bottom, and the crew's starting to arrive. So we're excited. It was a nice day today, and it feels like spring is coming in Maine.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. We'll see you in September.
Wonderful.
Danny, tell me about this one.
Yeah, that's the end of another great schooner race, and we're actually racing the Nantucket to the finish line, and I think we beat her.
Fun.
Yeah, she
You did.
didn't realize that we were going to move along there.
She has a handicap. She didn't have much sail up.
No, see where that got her.
She also appears to have her mushroom anchor down, so that probably helped.
She's got a lot of sail there. Do you ever have a stability test, John?
Oh yeah. We went up to Jordan's Market and borrowed their grocery scale and weighed all these lead bars.
Oh,
Stability. Yeah. Well, she did fine on stability. Partly because there's 10 tons of lead as a false keel below the keel. It makes her turn slower, but no, she does fine.
oh yeah. I didn't realize you put a false keel on her.
Well, it was that or a centerboard trunk.
Well, yeah. Danny built that model, did you?
No, and it's right here too. No, that's just a typical gift that a passenger would give me at the end of a trip.
Oh, pretty nice.
Yeah,
Pretty nice.
yeah. I got a whole room full of them.
It's a good thing you have a small house.
Yeah, small room.
Well, that's how he paid the crew too. I've got a room with them as well.
Now, kind of stubby
Yeah.
nose here. What happened to the old bowsprit?
It was getting a little punky, and
Really?
it was too short. Oops.
Too short. Uh-huh.
So I built a hollow one in my barn, and glued it all up out of hemlock and spruce and fir and everything. And we went over to Wayfarer Marine and jammed it in there. It's hollow, right, Garth? Some-
I'll take your word for it. I've never dug into it. It actually is, to your credit, Dan, that bowsprit has been absolutely perfect. We've had it out a couple times, but has had not even a spot of I should knock on wood, of rot
Right.
in that bowsprit. So
Yeah,
it's been a great spar.
can't explain it. It wasn't pressure treated or anything. It was just, we picked what we thought was good right from Rankins. Yeah.
Hmm.
It was a fun project.
What year was that?
Oh, Jenny, please. I'm not sure. I'd have to really look at pictures. Go back one, Jim. Can you go back one picture, Jim?
How many pictures?
One.
Right there?
I don't know. We're still at Pulpit Rock. No, you went, oh yeah, the picture up in the upper right. We were on our way to Boston, to sail Boston in help me, John,
92, maybe?
92 was at the Columbus.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1492. And we were in Gloucester, and the American Eagle were in there, maybe the Bowditch as well. And I needed some ice, so I went over to the Cape ice plant with my Boston whaler. And it's a little hard to tell in that picture, but I'm standing in about 2 feet of ice. They had a little fun with me. They filled the boat with ice. So everybody got ice that day. All the Maine schooners got ice that day.
There. Yeah, there's Pulpit Rock.
Pulpit Rock. Yeah.
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 Dan, did you paint her dark gray as soon as you got her, or did you keep her light gray for a while?
I think I had to use up some of that paint. I wouldn't be throwing that light gray paint away. So probably a couple of years, John. And
Yeah.
then I went to battleship gray.
Yeah.
Wartime.
What's
All
that?
you could get was battleship gray.
What's that small boat there, Dan, in the Port David?
Oh, that was the one that John built, right? You built that boat, right, John?
Yeah, that's modeled after a schooner sternboat of 1860.
John built it, and I wrecked it.
Danny converted it into a planter.
Oh, I think it ended up. What's his name took it? The surveyor.
Yeah, Ed Coffin had it, but I think they put geraniums in it.
He never rebuilt it. Yeah. We were headed up the bay in a rip snorting nor'wester up by Resolution Island. It was on the lee side, those low davits, and it didn't make a wave. The bow popped off and it snapped right in two. Just like that.
Well, I love the umbrella.
Yeah, I got kind of the sun. So that's me and my crew. I don't know what year that is.
There's Matt there.
What's that?
That looks like Matt, right?
No, that's Rob and Ben.
Oh, it's Ben. It's Ben. Okay.
Yeah. And I can't remember her name. Can't remember the cook. That's a bad sign.
You have to fix that.
And I don't know what maybe we just ran aground because the foghorn's tipped up on its end. And then on the left, there is my wife to the right, and then two small boys that came along rather quickly. And the other picture had us going into Boston. You could see the sewage treatment plant. Oh, we're really going through the pictures now. I can't talk fast enough. That one on the left is getting water. Oh, there's Boston.
My thumb slipped. Yeah.
that was one of the sail Bostons we went to. I'm not sure which. And yeah, the next picture was us getting water in Somme Sound from the spring. What is it, Mandor Spring? Somebody had some first mate had forgotten to or hadn't properly understood how to fill the water tanks. Not naming any names. No, it wasn't you. I told you I wasn't naming any names. It's not you.
Mark admits it. It was him.
Sorry.
Hi, Jenny.
That was some confusing plumbing, I gotta tell you.
It takes some time to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you know that, Ryan. And that upper right picture is the boat that I built from a plan that my mate Jeffrey Smith drew up, and to replace the boat that I wrecked. So that was built the spring after. And Jeffrey wanted to draw a boat, and I wanted one, and he wanted to draw a boat that was actually going to get built. So he drew it, and he helped me build it. Still going strong, right? Is it still going strong?
That boat is absolutely wonderful. It's perfect for what we do for bringing people to the lobster bake. So
yeah,
it is a critical part of our whole operation. Nicely done, Dan.
Thank you. We missed having a big side boat. I don't know, it was only like 3 weeks of the end of a season, but we really missed it. That picture on the left there is young Captain Garth as the mate, probably doing his last anchor crank.
That was our first and last one.
Yeah. And the other one, he's sewing a pudding on the boat. And that picture with the construction stuff there is in Camden Harbor late one Sunday night after we got T-boned by a yacht in Camden, and it did some real damage. You were there then, right, Gar?
I actually was not on board that year. That was 2000. So
okay, so you helped do the real fix the next spring.
Right, we replaced the rail cap completely the next spring. Yep.
Right. How's that holding up?
Not so good. No, that's doing well. I've never seen this picture. I heard you tell stories about your emergency midnight. This repair is happening in the middle of the night. I'd heard stories about it, but I'd never actually seen the system.
Well, I got a call on Sunday morning, late Sunday morning, and they said, Dan, you should come down here because a boat ran into us. We're in our berth way up in Camden Harbor. You know, it's pretty hard to hit you up there. And they said, you've got to come down here. And I said, what could they possibly have done? And I didn't go until meet and greet. And I showed up and the covering board was smashed. There was a plank sprung. The rail cap was split. And what is that, John? Like a 2.5 or 3 inch by 10 cap rail split right in two. It was a 45-foot sailboat backed into us right amid. So yeah, I was up till midnight throwing things back together. And that other small boat there, John, you built that one.
Yep.
When I was a mate for John in maybe 1981, I was ashore after dark, maybe picking up passengers in Northeast Harbor, and there was a boat leaning up against a dumpster. And I asked the guy that was peeing on the dumpster if he knew anything about that boat and if I could have it. And he said, oh, God. So I took that as a yes, and I brought it back. John let me bring it back on the boat, on the schooner. I don't know what we did, put it up on top of the davits or something, John, for the rest of the trip. And then John built two of them, either that winter or the next one for the French and one for the, eventually for the Eagle. Okay, I'll shut up now.
That's the best pole boat to this day I've ever rowed. That is the best rowboat I've ever been in.
Yep. Pete.
Yeah.
And where, I don't know, where are we there? Camden, is that Camden? Is that Rockland? Is that the North End Shipyard in the background?
That's Rockland with the Evans behind you.
That's right.
Hmm.
Back in the young day, when my beard wasn't quite the full color hadn't come into my beard yet. And that's a wedding we're doing underway down off Booth Bay. We actually had some people call up and say, we want to get married on the schooner. And we said, fine, we'll do it. And they weren't going to bring anybody with them. They were just the two of them. And then the next week we got a call. They said, well, we'd like to come on this, and it happened to be the same week. We'd like to come and get married. And we said, well, I think you already called. But no, it was two different couples got married same week down off Booth Bay. So there you go. You never know.
That's the other couple?
Those two got married.
Did they? There you go.
Yeah. Eventually. That must have been in Boston at Jimmy's Harborside.
No, it's okay, hon.
We're getting ready to go out to the governor. The governor.
I can't hear you over this thing.
And that's young Joe Pease right there in the sort of below my belt, and my dad in the background keeping an eye on young Joe, who's now 32. There we are, hamming it up. There's Sue. Hi, Sue. And another picture of us at Sail Boston, or our crew watching. That was fun.
Danny, is that the one where you anchored but put a ball fender on your anchor chain, so you told the patrol boats going by you were on a mooring?
Yeah. Well, that was the night before. We got in early, and I said, "Oh, they'll never know. I'll just tie a buoy onto our anchor chain." They certainly came right along, but we didn't move. And that picture on the left here is from the white bow on the right is the help me God, Jesse Briggs boat.
Not the AJ Meerwald?
Yeah, the AJ Meerwald.
Yeah.
And then the French, and then Bowditch.
Yeah.
Now Dona. And off the stern of the Bowditch, the Bowdoin, the Bowdoin,
Mm-hmm.
and others. That was 2000 there. Sail Boston 2000. And that's the whole crew all in our Sail Boston t-shirts. Okay, is that it? Oh, there we go. And there we are with the Peas Pod. Peas Pod year 1 on the right. And that picture probably should be dated because we don't have a topmast, a fore topmast. Is there a fore topmast there?
No.
I think that might have been the day or the day after we carried away the ironwork, and the Yankee jib ended up in the water beside us. You probably see Ed Sprigg in the picture there somewhere. And So we sailed the rest of the season without the four topmast. The four topmast stayed up there. But the Yankee jib was done for the season. And we're at Wooden Boat Magazine there in the background. There we are again with the champagne. You got to keep sticking that champagne in there, Jim. I'm going to have a little bit of a complex here.
Let me say right here, there's no way that that's you in 2003. That's not what you look like.
No. Who put that in? Yeah.
Hey, there's Ben Mendelwitz in that picture too, the famous wooden boat photographer.
Yeah, that's Debbie Bly in the picture. So that would have been Doug and Debbie. That must have been Cookie. Cookie, tell me, is that 1987?
87, yes. That's
right.
no. Is she crew or is she
88?
married? She's
What's
crew
that?
in that picture, not getting married.
Oh,
Because
I think she's true.
she came back to get married in 89.
Yeah, but Benji Mendowitz was on. This was a race. This was race day. Must have been 88, 87. Yeah. Thank you. That's Cookie Lee. She was our cook for the first 3 seasons I had the boat.
And I believe went to kindergarten with Mark, right, Cookie?
Great.
Correct. Hi, Mark.
Okay, is that it?
No, Dan, you forgot about me.
Oh, yeah. Garth, you take over. Oh my gosh, here we are in the lawyer's office. Who took that?
I don't
The
know.
lawyer?
I had my lawyer take it to make
That's the
sure.
only, that's the only you had. I never got the check.
No, it's in the mail. It's in the
Oh,
mail.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
It's coming. So then I bought the boat from Dan in the winter of before the 2004 season. Look how happy you are in that picture, Dan.
I cried all the way home.
And this obviously younger me. Gosh, I look like my brother in that picture.
Yeah, you
And
do.
then, on the right is Jenny, probably pregnant with our first kid, judging from the smile on her face. I don't know if she sailed when we had our second kid. But you know what I was thinking today, John and Dan, that all of us first owned the French as single owners, single men, and then we all met our wives within a couple of years on board the boat, right? And
Right.
got married while we owned it and had kids. Well, John might have been a little later, but we all met our wives right on the boat.
Yep.
And yeah. So if you ever sell the boat, you better warn the new owner. What's apt to happen?
God, you'll never sell it. You don't tell him you'll never sell it.
Wow.
That is that's me and our older son August there, who's now 11 and joins us for crewing on a lot of trips, and
It's gonna be the night watchman.
we might hire him on this year as the night watchman.
Does he have a license?
Yeah, he doesn't need one. This is a boat that I built a couple years ago for my boys to learn how to sail. It's a Chesapeake Lightcraft rowboat, sailboat. So this is building that. We named that the Snitch. One of them really likes Harry Potter, so that is gluing the seats in there of that boat.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a neat one. That is probably 2005. And Dan, if you don't know, I crewed for Dan for 5 years, but we were always, when I worked for him, we did a couple big plank jobs of about, say, 20 or 30 planks So, and then I've continued to do that. So every about 5 or 6 years, we'll haul her out and pick out planks. Because John, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you rebuilt the boat, you didn't do a lot of the planks, right? You did I know you did about 80% of the frames, but did you leave a lot of the planking alone, or as much as you could?
Yeah, oh yeah, we did. I think the shear strake we replaced because we had that we had to kind of reset the shear, and we replaced Herb Newbert over at Newbert and Wallace had a guy order a keel for a big lobster boat, and then the guy canceled. So they had this real nice keel log. They said, "You guys want it?" And Doug and I said, "Sure." So we ended up replacing, I think it's about a 30-foot, 35-foot piece of keel. Must be an 8 by 10 or 10 by 10, 8 by 10, I think. But yeah, that's a noble planking job right there. Is this when you did the garboard aft too? Or Simon did?
Yeah, this was our biggest one. I think this was 2005. And this is, we did some frames in the galley. So that's like right underneath the foremast there. So that we had to take off the lower 3, the garboard and the broad and the neck strake up on both sides to slide those frames in. So there's some big, that's all white oak. There's some long planks in there, like some 30 footers there. That was a very filling job.
Garth, can I ask you a question there?
Yeah.
Just looking at where the irons for your bobstay go, and I noticed that there's extra holes up above on the stem there. Why was that moved?
It actually wasn't moved. There's 2 sets of ironwork there. So the lower one, we didn't have to move. That's where the jib goes to, the jib stay. The upper one is where the forestay goes to. And because we replaced the plank underneath it, that had to be removed. So there's 2 sets there.
Gotcha. Thank you.
There is Jenny working on the boat, and you can see actually there's some planks off down low underneath her. But it's always good to marry a woman that can handle a planer and fare up a boat. So that was.
Don't look at my technique or anything.
So Garth, which of you got their license first, you or Jenny?
Oh, probably Jenny. Jenny sailed further than I have. She sailed all the way down to South America and did some big trips on some other schooners. So, and she's generally more studious. So I think that she got her license before me, but she worked on the Angelique and the Isaac Evans in our fleet. And then I eventually convinced her to come over and work on the Louis R. French. So it's been a nice thing that we both have our license these days. So that's the one in the stern, John. That's that's looking from the rudder, looking forward, and you can really see the twist. That was a troublesome one to twist that in those last couple feet. Old Brad Ellsworth, the world's oldest shipwright, working up there.
Oh, Garth, I had an addition to make on your tradition of meeting your wives and getting married and having children. You also are required to marry to perform the wedding of the man that succeeds you. Yeah, is that right? Yeah.
Exactly right. So
John did my wedding, I did your wedding, and so you have one down the road.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, Dan performed the ceremony for Jenny and I's wedding. I didn't know that John did your wedding. Did you get married on the schooner, Dan?
No, we got married on my parents' back porch.
Mm-hmm.
But it's virtually on the water.
Yeah, cold that day. And windy. I spent the whole day, the whole morning before the wedding and the whole afternoon after the wedding tying the schooner up for a storm. And I'll never be allowed to forget that.
So this is probably one of our longtime cooks, Amber Newt, pressure washed on the bottom. But that is the rudder that John built that has since been replaced. But that's the wooden rudder that John put in there. And I think, John, you told me that many of the planks on the port side down near the keel you thought were original 1871 planks. Do you think that is
I don't think so, Garth, because she was originally trundle fastened, and I don't think you'll find any of the planks that are on her now have trundles in them.
Oh, right.
Matter of fact, some of them might not even have nails.
No, we've gone around and put nails in all of them now, Dan.
Oh, good. I had them just held on with water pressure.
Oh, that's the Snitch, that Chesapeake Lightcraft vessel.
Wow.
Very, very glossy there. I guess we took the seats back out and painted her for that. So that's one of our side boats now. But the one that John built, the Weary, that's still in the barn, and we can still use that one. And of course, the Peapod is still, we still use that one on the boat for lobster bakes and stuff. So that's a good one. This is taking the masts out. My first year I owned the boat, I took the main mast out. Yeah, that's the main mast. Dan had taken the foremast out the year before. But John, you originally put spruce masts in her. And then how did you get your hands on these very fine Douglas fir masts?
Oh, we got up in order. The Sylvina Beale was being set up, and she needed some spars. And the Harvey Gamage always needed some spar from something they broke. And so we got an order together. So that was in, I don't know, 79. We didn't keep those spruce masts very long.
And that was, you brought those in from the Pacific Northwest?
Yeah.
So those masts are pressure treated Douglas fir, and they, although we've replaced the cross trees and some things, the mast itself, the stick itself is just still in perfect shape.
Good.
And these are the spars that I think these are all credited, should go to John. These ones that we see here, the main boom and the gaff, you built all those, right, John?
Well, somebody built them when we were doing it. Yeah, there was one of the guys at Newbert and Wallace had a cousin who was cutting some spruce down the peninsula, and they thought they had a tree for a mast, and I couldn't really dissuade them from the idea of selling me that beautiful spruce tree. And they brought it up, lashed to the top of it, one of their dump trucks. And it was 70 feet, but at 70 feet, it was about 3 inches in diameter, but it made a nice main boom. And I don't think you or Dan have had to do too much work to it. I was probably replace the boom jaws or something.
Yeah, I did replace the jaws. There was, we've done a couple repairs on them, but we did such a good job that you can't even tell.
Yeah, those are still doing great. And then on the lower right is a block that Dan and I had a longtime passenger that would always do a project every winter. And that was one of his projects, was to build a couple blocks. And he even carved in the name and the Roman numeral for 1871. So just an example of something that a passenger would give me.
There you go. You're getting it. You'll get it yet. You stick with it.
So this was our foray down to Sail Boston, the parade there. That we did that in 2009. So the French has been back and forth to Boston quite a few times, and almost every time the French is the only vessel there with no engine. And usually we can't even tell the organizers that we have no engine, because they won't let us participate. So, it's exhausting being the captain. Absolutely exhausting.
Hey, in that picture on the right, I think you're sober in that one.
No way. There it is. That's the full family there on the right. That I hardly ever sleep on the boat in that chair, but I was fast asleep in that one. I don't know who caught that picture of me, but that's that's horrible.
Oh.
There's Dan, and Dan when he owned the boat, and that's me in the background with the sunglasses on with the white shirt. And then the other guy there is Nick Wilson, who his dad is the sailmaker that makes all of the sails for the French and many of the boats in our fleet up here. But what is that in the back there, Dan? You have some sort of giant piece of canvas to keep people from falling overboard, or what's that?
Yeah, no, that was an attempt at making the yawl boat quieter.
Oh, I see. That's right. I hardly remember that.
It didn't work. Hearing aids.
Yeah. Well, you got to remember that yawl boat's named Greyhound because at the time that was the bus service to Rockland and Camden, and when that was built, and riding in that boat with the original diesel engine, it was kind of noisy and uncomfortable and smoky. It smelled of diesel exhaust, so we named it Greyhound. So it was like the bus.
Yep.
It's Greyhound, all the way back around. Yeah, that's us sitting in Camden Harbor, waiting for the next trip there, all tucked in with the Angelique next to us and the yawl boat waiting for the next trip. So yeah, that's wonderful. What else do you have to add? Jim, do you have any questions? What do we do now? Is Jim still with us? Do we lose him?
I think Jim's been muted for the last half hour.
He's sleeping.
I think Jim's muted.
He dropped out.
That's nice that, Garth, you've got a diamond painted on the engine box because her cargo hatches were all painted out. There were, I don't know, four big wooden hatches that went into the coaming for the hatchway. And they were painted with a diamond, so you'd get them in, put them in the right order.
Yeah, we try to do the diamond if we have time on as many surfaces as we possibly can. So as people who have sailed with us know, some years there's diamonds on things and some years there's not. But
I don't know what happened there, but we lost the diamond.
Oh, that's all right.
Well, great time. Appreciate it very much. We certainly, any more questions from the peanut gallery there? Anybody have any questions for these captains?
I do. Garth,
Meg, you need to lean in closer. We can't hear you.
what do you think the season will bring in? The season this year.
Right. Well, just like everybody, we weren't really sure how this would all play out this year. But in the last couple of weeks, we've really gotten a huge positive response from our passengers, and it looks like this season is going to be a go. We have safety, like every business does. We have protocols in place that we think will keep everybody safe. And but even better is that as more and more of our passengers get the vaccination, they're reaching out to us and saying, "Hey, I'm going to be vaccinated. Are you guys sailing?" And absolutely, we are. And I've gotten my shot. Jenny's gotten her shot, and we are, we're going to be back on a full season this year. So.
Yeah, we're all looking forward to it.
That's wonderful.
Looking forward to seeing you down here, Garth.
Oh yeah, we're going to go down. A couple of things we're doing this summer. We're going to bring the boat down to Christmas Cove for our 150th for a weekend, and then we're gonna go back to Booth Bay, where she was homeported in Booth Bay for Windjammer days. So we're gonna try to get around to as many of our old home ports as possible this summer.
Eastport?
And maybe not Eastport. That one might be a little out of our range. But the more local ones. Maybe you'll tow me up there, John. You tow me up there?
I will. I'll tow you up there.
Hey, Garth,
Yes, sir.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
You know, the 150th is such a big deal. And that New Zealand whaling ballad called the Wellerman Shanty is such a big deal that I think we have to write new lyrics like everybody else is doing, featuring the French in its 150th year. So if you can make it to Swan's Island, we're going to give you a very special moment of the Louis R. French Wellerman Shanty.
That sounds great, Doug. Oh, wait, who's writing the lyrics?
Well,
You're writing the lyrics?
Probably I'll try to get this whole crew well lubricated and see if everybody can contribute a stanza.
We'll work on it.
Great.
I look forward to that, Doug. I can't wait.
Thank you, Doug.
You
Well,
bet.
there we are. Thank you all for coming. It's a great show. You can see all the ones we've done there. My God, we've been through a whole lot of schooners. We've got the rigging coming up next in 2 weeks. And then we've got the whole Frank Swift fleet coming up on May 4th. So stay tuned and come around the Sail Power Steam Museum. Check us out. And if you want another sea story, why, there you go. They're my memoirs. 40, 50 years of voyaging, and some of it's even true. Pardon me?
Garth's book.
We already showed Gus' book.
Okay.
Yeah. And, yeah, Gus got a book and I got a book too. So donate to the Skiff program and you get a free copy, all signed and everything, and hang on to it for 40 years and it'll be worth twice the price. Thank you all for coming. I'm Steve in South Rockland.
Thank you, Jim and Meg.
Yes. Thanks, Jim and Meg, for hosting.
Thanks for hosting. This was wonderful.
Great idea.
So
Thanks
nice
so
to
much.
see everybody.
Great.
Bye.
See you. We got to keep it going.
Yeah.
Good night, all.
Night.
Yeah.
Good night. See
Thank
you
you.
this summer.